welcome back to Science with Miss Wardell. Today we are exploring the moon. This is so much fun. I love this. Exploring the moon. So underline your passage and let's go ahead and number our paragraphs. 2, 3, 4, only 5 paragraphs today, right? Look at my text feature. You can see that. See the picture of what it looks like. Okay? Turn over and look at your questions. Our first one says, what would you see if you look closely at the moon? 2, why is the moon not protected from comets crashing into it? 3, how hot does the moon get when the sun is shining? How cold does the moon get? So here, this is 2 questions. We want to know how hot and how cold. What does the moon, or what does the word orbit mean? The word orbit mean? 5, how long does it take the moon to orbit the earth? 6, what does the moon, or what do they mean by the moon phases? 7, how many different phases do we get to observe? 8, how does the moon create Earth's tides? And 9, who was the first person to walk on the moon? Great questions. See if we recognize any as we read. Scientists believe that the moon was created 4.5 billion years ago. If you get a small telescope and look closely at the moon, you can see craters, pits, and scars on the moon's surface caused by large pieces of rock hitting it billions of years ago. Oh, well, that's what I see when I look closely at it, like asked in question number 1. The craters, pits, and the scars caused by large rocks hitting it billions of years ago. So here I can put Q1, right? And go ahead, flip my paper back over, and I can say you would see craters, right? Because that's what it said. Pits and scars. When you look closely at the moon. How's that? That tells a lot about it. Maybe be on the lookout for why the moon is not protected from comets crashing into it. Let's see if we can figure that out when we're reading. The reason why we can still see the damage is because the moon has no atmosphere or blanket of gas and liquid. Earth has an atmosphere, so we are protected from the comets and meteors that crash into us. So because the moon has no atmosphere and it's an atmosphere that protects us, so why is it that the moon is not protected? It's because it has no atmosphere. Because it does not have an atmosphere. Period. Okay, now be listening for how hot and how cold you might see. Okay? Oh, I forgot to put Q2 here. Good catch, guys. Since the moon has no atmosphere, it gets extremely hot or cold. Because the sun, the moon is 250 degrees Fahrenheit. When the sun is shining, and it is negative 280 degrees Fahrenheit when it is dark. Oh my gosh. Q3 here. We've got question 3 already. So how hot is it? It's 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And how cold? It's negative 280 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot and pretty cold. Okay? The moon takes about 27 days to orbit or go around the Earth. As the moon rotates around Earth, we get to look at only the bright parts of the moon's surface at different angles. This is what we call the moon's phases. There are 8 different phases that we get to observe during 1 month. Now wait a minute. I thought we talked about phases here and how many? There are how many different phases? There are 8. Let's see if there's a question. Let's see. The orbit, how long does it take for what do they mean by the moon phases? Oh yeah, see here, we got to talk about moon phases. How many different phases do we get to observe? We can say there are, let's write this word 8 out. 8 phases of the moon each month. Period. And this was question 7, so Q7. But I think that we can answer more here, right? What do they mean by moon's phases? So what do they mean by moon's phases? We got to tell what these moon phases are, right? The moon rotates around Earth, okay? It's rotating around the Earth. We get to look at only the bright parts of the moon's surface at different angles. And this is what we call the moon phase. So here, this is Q6, right? So the phases are the bright parts of the moon's surface at different angles. That's what they're showing here. So number 6, they say phases are the bright parts of the moon's surface at different angles. Different angles. Period. Okay. Let's read these last couple of paragraphs. Oops, forgot to circle this one. Did you know that the moon creates the Earth's tides? The moon's gravity pulls the water of the oceans up, resulting in high tide on the side of the Earth that is closest to the moon. The first person to walk on the moon was an American astronaut named Neil Armstrong. Even though he was able to visit the moon, he sure can't live there since the moon is airless, waterless, and lifeless. So cool. Okay, guys, so here's what I want you to do. We've answered so many of these together. I would like for you to do number 4 and 5, which talk about what does the word orbit mean, and how long does it take the moon to orbit the Earth. I'd also like you to tell me on number 8, what does the moon, or how does the moon create Earth's tides? And 9, who was the first person to walk on the moon? Okay, guys, thank you so much. Make sure you write in complete sentence. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.